Welcome everyone to Choice Conversations, the podcast dedicated to helping you improve your life, one choice at a time. I'm your host, Chris Stefanik. Let's do this. Hey gang. Today I'm bringing you part 3 of the Principles of Weight Loss series. This is a show on the fastest way I know to lose weight, and that is fasting. Now, if you didn't check out the previous shows, I encourage you to do that. Part 1 talks about what's wrong with calories in, calories out, why just reducing the amount of calories you eat and exercising are not effective strategies for losing weight. That's one I encourage you to listen to. Part 2 is the easiest way that I know to lose weight. And in a nutshell, it's eating a low carb, high fat diet. But I get into the science behind that. Basically, it's all around hormone signaling. And today we're going to be talking about fasting. Now you might be saying, well, fasting isn't it just like another synonym for reducing calories? And you said reducing calories doesn't work. And in part 1, calories in, calories out is dead. Well, it's completely different to reduce calories partially and be eating than it is to reduce calories completely to zero and not be eating at the hormonal level. At the hormonal level, the signals your body sends is completely different. We'll get into that in a minute. If you've not yet had a chance to check out my new e-guidebook on relationships, turning arguments into discussions, please check it out. You can get that for free at discussions.choiceconversations.com. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. It's short, it's information packed, and I think you'll like it. It will definitely help you in your relationships if you read it and implement the advice. All right, so part 3, Principles of Weight Loss. Before I get into fasting, quick recap on the first 2 parts. The reason calories in, calories out does not work is when you reduce calories, the body adapts to that because it does not want you to lose weight. It adapts to that by lowering your metabolism. So the main thing it does is your body temperature drops and you feel cold, but you also feel kind of weak and crappy. It also sends out hormones that make you hungry. You're thinking about food all the time. So it's really, really hard to stick to. You feel like crap and you're hungry and you plateau. After losing about 10 pounds, you plateau. In part 2, I talked about how the key is insulin. When you produce insulin in the body, that is a way that signals to the body to store fat and to gain weight. When you reduce insulin, that signals to the body to burn fat and lose weight. And the biggest thing that causes insulin or an insulin response is eating, first of all, but not all foods are created equal. High carb foods produce much more insulin than protein. When protein produces much more insulin than fat, fat produces almost none. There's maybe a small insulin response to fat, but very, very little. And of the carbohydrate foods, the ones that are the worst are the high glycemic foods. So like the sugars and grains in particular are really bad at causing you to get fat because they really spike your blood sugar. So the high fat, low carb diet has much lower levels of insulin and it sends signals to your body to lose weight. You'll start burning through fat. But then in part 2, I talked about how some people will still struggle even with going low carb, and it's probably because they're insulin resistant. So another way that you can have a lot of insulin in your body besides eating carbs is if you have insulin resistance. What insulin resistance means is your body, in short, I went into more detail in part 2, but in short, your body's insulin receptors don't do a good job of reading the insulin. Insulin is a hormone, and hormones are signals that your body sends out. And so there's something that sends the signal, produces insulin, and something that receives the insulin. Something that receives the signal, the insulin receptors. The insulin receptors don't hear the signal very well. So the body's like, oh, they're not getting the signal. They're not getting the signal. I need to make more insulin, more insulin, more insulin. So you get to the point where you have a really big insulin response when you're insulin resistant, because the insulin receptors are resistant to that insulin. They're not doing a good job of receiving it. Now, a low carb diet will help you to lower insulin resistance, but it's not the best way to cure insulin resistance, and it's not the best way to lower insulin. The best way to lower insulin is just to not eat at all. It's to fast. Your insulin will drop like a stone, and it does wonders for curing insulin resistance. So people that have tried a low carb diet and are still struggling to lose weight, you're probably going to have to fast. I say this is the fastest way to lose weight because you will drop weight faster than eating low carbs. But I say the low carb, high fat method is easier because you don't have to go without food. Fasting, you have to go without food and you're going to get hungry. And so mentally, I find it more difficult. Where on a low carb, high fat diet, if you want food, go eat, just as long as it's high fat, low carb, And that, to me, I find that very, very easy, a very easy, comfortable way to lose weight, where you might have to step out of your comfort zone a little for a fast. So what does this look like? There's two main strategies that I recommend for fasting for weight loss. One is eating every other day. So there was a huge study on this, thousands and thousands of people, some really great results from it of people losing weight, much more effective than just reducing calories. Lots of other healthy benefits from it, where you don't eat one day and then you eat the next. And like one of the counters to this is, oh, but Chris, if you do that, the problem with that is you gorge yourself the next day. So that's why it's not going to work. You're going to gorge yourself the next day when you're allowed to eat. And it is true that people ate more in this study on the days they were allowed to eat whenever they would fast the day before. So the average person was eating 2,400 calories on a normal day when they weren't fasting. Just every day they'd have 2,400 calories. Then when they would do fast one day and eat the next and just repeat that, on the days they would eat 29 calories. They would eat 2,900 calories. 2,900 calories is a pretty big jump from 2,400. That's more than a 20% increase. That's a lot of extra calories. But you know what? It's a lot less than 4,800 calories. And if you eat 2,400 calories every day, over a 2-day span, you're eating 4,800 calories. Where meanwhile, if you're fasting every other day and one day is 2,900 calories, over 2 days, you're only eating 2,900 calories. So 2,900 calories versus 4,800 calories. So, I mentioned this in part 1. It's not so much that you don't need a caloric deficit. You do need a caloric deficit to lose weight, which is more calories are going out, the more calories are going in. It's how you get there. How do you get that caloric deficit? Eating less and moving more does not create a deficit because your body adjusts. You eat less, your body sends less calories out. It drops your metabolism. But this is different. The signals are completely different in your body when you fast. When you fast, your body doesn't drop your metabolism. So you feel good. The body is reducing insulin to rock bottom levels, which is sending the signal to your body to burn fat. And it also secretes the hormone HGH, human growth hormone. Human growth hormone has two things that it signals. One is it does encourage the body to burn fat, and two, it encourages the body to preserve muscle. So you become very muscle sparing. You don't lose muscle. So this is the big difference between fasting and just reducing calories. When you reduce calories, your body, only about half of what you lose in weight is fat. The other half is muscle and bone. But when you fast, and when you drop carbs and do like the low carb diet, pretty much all you burn, all the weight you lose is fat. And when you're fasting, your body does not send out the signal for you to be hungry. Like when you reduce calories, your body is sending out hormones that are hunger hormones that make you really hungry. Fasting, you will deal with some hunger. And especially when you're new to fasting, it can be worse in the beginning. Once you become a veteran of fasting, it gets to be easy peasy, but in the beginning it can be rough. That's why I say like a low carb diet is easier than fasting. But people report they report much less hunger fasting than they do on a reduced calories diet. I mean, it seems counterintuitive because you're going from just eating a little to eating nothing. Surely the hunger would be even worse. But that's not what the studies show. So again, what does this look like? So you eat one day, you're off the next. You eat one day, you're off the next. You're actually getting more than a 24-hour fast in, because let's say you count you're fasting when you're sleeping between the days too. So let's say you eat all your food between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. Well, so at 9 p.m. you start your fast. At 9 p.m. the next day, you're at 24 hours. But you're still not allowed to eat till you go to bed and get up the next morning. So you get up at 7 the next morning on day 3 and start eating. Well, at that point, you've just added another 10 hours. So at that point, you've actually been fasting for 34 hours. So you get a nice long fast in. And here's another thing why fasting works and why it works even better, more efficiently than a low carb diet. Because not only are you getting the signal to your body to burn fat, you're dropping insulin and creating human growth hormone so that you're giving your hormone signaling is perfect for fat loss. Not only are you maximizing that calorie deficiency of dropping your calories to zero while not dropping your metabolism, so calories out still stays the same while calories in drops to zero. The thing about fasting is your body isn't having to burn through food to get to fat. So let me just explain this for a minute. Your body is not going to burn fat if it has food to burn through. It's going to burn through that food before it ever gets to the fat. If there's food that is processing, it is not going to burn fat. So this is why people that snack a lot, maybe eat 3 meals a day and with snacks in between, it's almost impossible to lose weight. Even on low carb, it's pretty hard to do it when you're doing that, because your body never has a long stretch to say, okay, I burnt through the food. Now it's time to burn fat. I mean, I've heard estimates that it takes, up to 8 hours for your body to burn through food. So you have to give yourself at least 8 hours. So it's like if you're eating a bedtime snack at 10, 11 o'clock and you're getting up at 6 a.m. the next morning and eating breakfast right away. And then throughout the day, you're never going more than 8 hours because you're eating meals and snacks. Your body never gets a chance to burn through that fat. Your body never gets a chance to burn through the food and then be able to get to the fat. It's got to get through the food first. This is why a 20-hour fast burns way more fat than a 10-hour fast. You said, well, a 20-hour fast is twice as long as a 10-hour fast. Shouldn't it be like twice as much fat? No, it's way more than twice as much fat. The reason is the first 8 hours of your 10-hour fast is just burning through food. So you're only really getting 2 hours of fat burning on a 10-hour fast, where you're getting 12 hours of fat burning on a 20-hour fast, because it takes 8 hours to burn through the food, and you get 12 hours of fat burning. So it's a 20-hour fast is 6 times as effective at burning fat as a 10-hour fast. Does that make sense? So that's the nice thing about this every other day strategy is, depending on, you're getting over 24 hours, you're probably getting, like I said, maybe 34 or more. If you can narrow your food down on the day you do eat to like a 12 hours. So say you eat all your food between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. So it's in a 12-hour window. That means you're getting a nice 36-hour fast. First 8 hours is burning through food. And then you have a good 28 hours of fat burning. 28 hours, even though like it takes 8 hours to burn through food and you're thinking like, oh, every other day, that means a 24-hour fast. No, it ends up being like 36-hour fast with 28 hours of fasting. With 28 hours of fat burning. Now, the second strategy I'll have, and this one's a little easier than the first one, eating every other day. This is eating 1 meal a day. 1 meal a day. So some people call this OMAD, the acronym, 1 meal a day. And there's a woman who wrote a book on it, Delay, Don't Deny. So her idea behind the concept, and I like the idea, is like, don't deny yourself food, just delay having the food. So you can have what you want. I mean, I've not read the book. I just have heard like the elevator pitch for it. So maybe there's more to it than this, but you can pretty much have whatever you want. Just have it in one sitting once a day. You just delay having it. You don't have it throughout the day. And so then you're still getting a pretty good fast. It takes about 8 hours to burn through your food. the insulin's going to spike, when you eat, but then it's going to drop. And from, the majority of the day, your insulin levels are going to be low. So you're going to burn fat for, I guess that's what you're going to have about a 16-hour period of burning fat if you're, getting a 24-hour fast in each day. Or I guess it's probably more like a 23 and a half hour fast if you're doing the OMAD diet, because, it takes you 30 to 60 minutes to eat depending on how slow you are and how much you socialize. And then you get 23 and a half hours of fasting. This is a diet that a lot of people have found to be really easy to do, because one meal a day, you're not having to go that long without food. So mentally, it's a lot less challenging. A lot of people like this as a maintenance diet. It's a way that you can, once you've lost weight, not gain it back. It's just go to one meal a day and have whatever you want. Because people that are like, man, I don't want to give up carbs. I like carbs. I don't want to give up cake or whatever. Now, I recommend you minimize them. I recommend you focus more on healthy foods. And if you didn't listen to the Principles of Nutrition, I recommend you listen to that show. And I'll put links to all these in the show notes, where I talk about a good, healthy diet when you're just looking for maintenance and you're not looking for weight loss specifically. The Principles of Nutrition is great for that. It teaches you how to eat healthy. So it's different. Weight loss, eating to lose weight and eating to be healthy are not necessarily the same thing. So there are plenty of foods that are low carb and high in unhealthy fats. Like stuff, if you take like a non-starchy vegetable and fry it in unhealthy fats, that's not healthy for you. There's a lot of inflammatory agents in that fat that leads to cancer and all kinds of other heart disease and it's linked to all of that stuff. Well, meanwhile, that's okay to eat that stuff if you're trying to lose weight. It's not healthy, but if the goal is losing weight, you will lose weight. Your insulin levels will drop eating a high fat, low carb food. But on the other hand, fruit is very healthy for you. But if you're trying to lose weight, you're going to get an insulin response when you eat fruit. It's going to spike some. If you're trying to lose weight, you probably want to minimize fruit. So it's different. Eating healthy and eating to lose weight are not necessarily the same. My principles of nutrition, I talk about eating healthy. Principles of weight loss series is how to lose weight. So fasting. A couple other great things about fasting. Fasting, you have more time when you're fasting because you're not spending time preparing food, eating food, passing it through. These are all reduced. Cleaning up afterwards, cleaning up the dishes and all of that. You also save some money because you eat less food. That's pretty nice. People report getting very clear-headed when they fast. This is especially true with you'll see this as well with low carb. When you become ketogenic, there's a lot of mental clarity that comes along. People have brain fog from having inflammatory diets. And when they fast or go low carb, they go ketogenic and all of a sudden they're like, wow, I can see clearly now. My brain was in a haze. And a lot of times people don't even realize their brain's in a haze till they go on a ketogenic diet, which fasting is a ketogenic diet. You're burning ketones when you fast. They don't even realize it because they've never been in ketosis before in their life because of food so readily available and they're eating so many carbs. You get in ketosis, they're like, oh my God, I had no idea that I had a foggy brain. My whole life, that was just normal to me to have a foggy brain. Now I realize it. I've been talking about shorter fasts. This is what they call intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting is pretty much like 24 hours or less. I would say anything beyond the eating every other day, it's a long-term fast. It's not an intermittent fast. But even if you just do like a 16-hour fast, eating all your food in an 8-hour window. So like you start eating you skip breakfast, start at noon, finish at 8 o'clock at night. So you're getting then a 16-hour fast. There are benefits to that. It will help with lowering insulin. You'll have a time period there, a window where your body's not having to burn through food to lose fat. But, I recommend going a little longer than that. That's a decent maintenance diet to do a daily 16-hour fast and eat all your food in an 8-hour window. That's, it's a decent maintenance diet. I kind of like for my maintenance diet to go a daily 18-hour intermittent fast and eat all my food in a 6-hour window. So for me, what that looks like is I kind of count backwards from dinner. So dinner with the family is usually around 6-ish, 6 to 7. So I have my first meal at 1 o'clock, and then I'll have a snack 3 hours later at 4. And then I have dinner about 6:30. So all my food falls between like 1 and 7 p.m. And then I get an 18-hour fast after that. And I like not having to have snacks all day long, not having to have breakfast. It gives me a lot of extra time. But these are all intermittent fasts. There is long-term fasts. If you really want to supercharge the speed at which you lose weight and get a really great cleanse, long-term fasting is even better. This is even faster. This is the fastest way to lose weight. Now, before I talk about long-term fasts, huge disclaimer, you are responsible for your health. Do not do a long-term fast without consulting your physician. Do your own research, all of these things. This is especially true if you've got some health conditions, like maybe type 1 diabetic, or you're missing organs or things like that nature. Also, fasting is not appropriate for pregnant women and for children. So if you're pregnant or if you're a child, if you're 18 or under, you do not need to be fasting. Fasting is synonymous with starvation. There is no difference between fasting and starvation. Starvation is a way that people die. So you can die if you don't know what you're doing. So, take responsibility for your own health. I am not to blame if you hurt yourself. Consult your physician. Having said that, a long-term fast has tons of health benefits. It's the best cleanse out there. Nothing else even comes remotely close to these like juice cleanses and all this crap. No, I mean, your body, what it will do when you're fasting is it'll start looking around for weak and sick cells and garbage like viruses and things like that are just laying around, and it will eat that. It does a cleanup. And you're left with just like strong, healthy cells. I mean, no other cleanse comes close, but it does stuff like it reduces inflammation. It promotes insulin sensitivity, which is like basically the opposite of insulin resistance. It kills cancer cells. So I do a 7-day fast every year. If you follow me on Facebook, you're probably aware of this. Every year I do once a year, I do a 7-day fast just to kill cancer cells. Cause they say about 5 days into your fast, the cancer cells start dying off. So I do a 7-day cancer cells, and this also kills off precancerous cells. So it's a way to prevent cancer. Kill off those precancerous cells, nip them in the bud before they get the chance to develop into cancer cells. Because my understanding is that basically all of us are carrying around precancerous cells, and it's just a matter of if they become cancerous or not. So that's my way of combating cancer, because I want to live to be 100 or more. So I'm doing everything I can to be healthy. But cancer is one of those things, you can be doing all the stuff healthy you want and still end up getting cancer. It's one of these like equalizers out there. So I'm going to do what I can to prevent cancer by doing this annual 7-day fast. All right. Other benefits of long-term fast. It boosts stem cell growth. It's linked with neurogenesis, strengthens the immune system. Really great for the immune system. Actually, if you feel like a cold coming on or the flu or some kind of sickness coming on, start a fast immediately. That's a really great way to kill it. And your immune system will immediately, well, maybe not immediately, but within like a day, it starts really getting stronger and you just knock the sickness right out. Fasting will reset your psychological relationship with food. It's great for that because it's like breaking an addiction. If you got food as an addiction, you fast, you're just taking it away, and then you're like, oh, gee, I can be all right without food. Another benefit of fasting is it increases testosterone levels. As you age, testosterone levels steadily drop, and this can cause issues with people. So fasting is a great way to combat that. It's great for brain health. There's many different issues in the brain that fasting is awesome for, like epilepsy. Ketogenic diets in general are well known to be a great treatment for seizures, for epileptic seizures. It's also a great treatment for Alzheimer's. Now, these don't cure Alzheimer's or epilepsy, but they treat the symptoms. So you go on a ketogenic diet, which fasting is a ketogenic diet. You don't have any seizures. If you have Alzheimer's, you fast. Grandpa was having trouble remembering who his grandchildren were, remembering their names. All of a sudden, has a bunch of clarity and can remember all the names, that sort of thing. It's great for treating the symptoms of these brain ailments. It's also awesome for skin conditions. It's, among other things, it's been known to clear up psoriasis. It's a really good treatment for psoriasis, and just a myriad of other health benefits that I'm just scratching the surface here. You burn a ton of fat, as I already mentioned, when you're fasting. It is the fastest way to burn fat. And you know what else? It's actually a great hack for when desirable food is not available. So maybe you're traveling and you're going in and out of airports for a day, and there's a bunch of crap around you. You don't have to pack healthy food. That's one option. You could pack healthy food, but you could just fast. Perfect travel hack. Now, if you are doing a long-term fast, you're going to want some electrolytes. I have water, and then with it, I will mix in some sea salt and some potassium. And, I have that spread out throughout the day. The electrolytes in your body are pretty much gone after 24 hours, and at which point your body stops functioning correctly and you feel really crappy. But it's really tough to do what they would call like a dry fast, which would mean no water, or even if you have water but don't have electrolytes, that's a really hard fast. But if you have water and electrolytes, fasting's pretty easy. It might, maybe the first couple days, if you're not a veteran, the first 2 days can suck if you're not a veteran. And if you're like addicted to sugars and stuff like that, because you're going through withdrawal, and your first 2 days are going to suck. But once you've done it a few times, though, even the first 2 days it's nothing, and you're not that hungry, surprisingly. Hunger is not nearly as bad when you're fasting compared to where you reduce your calories in, like the standard diet, like a Weight Watchers type diet. There's a lot more hunger associated with that, reducing your calories a little, than there is reducing them 100%. So you're down to 0 calories. And the interesting thing I found, I even find a long-term fast to have less hunger than short-term, like an intermittent fast. So I'm guessing this has to do with the salt. That's one of the electrolytes that I supplement. So I always supplement magnesium and potassium. Magnesium, most people don't get enough magnesium, so I supplement that to make sure that I'm getting the recommended amount. And potassium, I have a condition known as restless leg syndrome. There's not a known cure for it, but the treatment for the symptoms is to supplement potassium. At least that treatment works for me. I'm not saying it works for everyone, but it works. That treatment does work for me. So I regularly supplement potassium and magnesium anyway. Those are the two of the 3 electrolytes I supplement when I'm fasting. The third one is salt. So I actually experience less hunger when I'm doing a long-term fast, if I'm fasting for 7 days, than I do if I'm doing an intermittent fast where I'm fasting for 18 hours. The only difference that I see is I'm supplementing salt in the one where I'm not in the other. I am during a fast, like I said, I'm supplementing salt, magnesium, potassium, but I'm also doing magnesium and potassium during the intermittent fast. The one additional one is salt there. So I guess helps to suppress hunger, because I feel almost no hunger. Last time I did a 7-day fast, I had almost no hunger. And it kind of blew my mind that I had even less than what I do when I'm doing intermittent fasting. In the body, if you're fat, the body can go a long time without food, because it's not going without calories. It's actually got food. It's just the food it has, instead of going to get food out of the refrigerator and getting the stored food there, it's getting stored food that's on your gut and in your fat cells. So you're still getting food. It's just the food's not coming from the refrigerator. It's coming from your gut. Either place is a store of food. It's a store of calories. It's not like you're really going without these calories. So, there was a guy who went for 382 days. Now, he was not under a physician's supervision, but he went for 382 days without food. He started off weighing 456 pounds, and after 382 days, he was down to 180. So he dropped almost 300 pounds in 382 days. That's fast. That is really fast. Now he was, like I said, he was under a physician's supervision. That physician was giving him electrolytes and I think maybe some other minerals and stuff like that, closely monitoring and injecting him with some things in here. But he didn't have food. Still, 380 days without food. How crazy is that? Almost 300 pounds in 380 days. How crazy is that? Now, there is a guy who specializes in long-term fasting for weight loss. If you do a Google search for snake diet, you'll find him. I will warn you, he's pretty off color. He drops a lot of F-bombs. He does some fat shaming. So I think his name is Cole. But what he is promoting is effective for weight loss. So he had a woman lose 200 pounds in 12 months. So that's an average of 17 pounds a month. Good luck with that on Weight Watchers. He said he's had lots of males lose 50 pounds in a month. He had a guy lose 60 in 40 days, but he's had several lose 50 in 30. It is the fastest way to lose weight. Now, another thing that fasting is great for is losing those stubborn last few pounds. So a lot of people have had success losing weight on a low-carb, high-fat diet or on ketogenic diets. But when you get down to that last little bit, to get cut up, ripped, to have a six-pack, it's really hard. Like you really start to taper down because your body really doesn't want to lose that last little bit, right? It's like emptying the savings account. It really is just like, this is not a good idea to empty the savings account down to zero. We want to have a little stored for a rainy day. And when you're eating food, it's hard to get a six-pack, right? A lot of people can't do it without fasting, but that's one good way to get those last few pounds off if you fast. It's probably the most effective way to get ripped, to get a six-pack. All right, so that's it. So fasting is the fastest way to lose weight because it drops insulin. It sends the right hormone signals to your body. It drops your insulin. You secrete human growth hormone. You really get a really nice caloric deficit going because you're reducing calories to zero while not reducing calories out. Well, when I say that the body doesn't drop metabolism when fasting, that's not exactly true. One of the things that's known to happen is body temperature will lower a little bit. People report feeling cold when they fast. Most of the time, this doesn't happen for me. I have had it one time. I noticed that I was feeling cold while fasting. Other people report it. And of course, the body temperature dropping is an indication that your metabolism is dropping. It takes less energy to keep the body warm at a lower level than it does at a higher level. But still, you're getting a really good caloric deficit as calories in goes to zero and calories out. It might drop a little because your temperature is dropping, but it's not dropping to zero. It's not able to drop to a level where it matches the calories in. Remember when we talked about just reducing your calories kind of diet, you reduce the calories in, but then the calories out reduces as well so that they match and you don't have a caloric deficit. When you take calories in to zero, the body doesn't have a choice. It can't match calories out to calories in. It can't take it to zero or you'll die. So it stays somewhere well above zero. It drops a little bit, but it doesn't drop a lot. And you keep that nice caloric deficit, which of course leads to fat loss. Now, I will say that the energy level when you're fasting is not as high as when you're not fasting, but it's not awful. You don't feel like terrible. Like when I fast, when I go on a 7-day fast, I still will do walks every day. I'll take the dogs out for a walk. I'll do yoga, maybe not every day, but several days during the week, I'll sit down and do like a half hour or 45 minutes of yoga. So the energy levels are still good. They're just not as high. You definitely do notice a little dip in energy level. But all things considered, considering all the other health benefits and just losing weight, it's well worth that the small price you pay with a lower energy level, slightly lower energy level, and a little bit of a lower body temperature, and feeling cold. That's really the only real trade-offs that I see is those two things. And I guess plus you'll feel a little hunger here and there. Not bad hunger, but you will feel some hunger here and there. Body temperature, feeling cold, energy levels being a little lower, and being hungry, having to deal with some issues of hunger. That's the only downsides that I'm thinking of right now off the top of my head associated with fasting. So give it a shot. Try doing like a 24-hour fast and see how that goes for you. And if you're not able to do it at first, start with a 12-hour fast and then push it to 13 and then push it to 14 and then push it to 15. Just keep narrowing that window that you eat food till you get to the point where you're just eating one meal a day. And then maybe you could switch to eating every other day. Now, as I've said many times, having the knowledge to do something is not the same thing as having the ability. You now have the knowledge of what you need to do to lose weight fast. That doesn't mean you have the ability to act on that knowledge. A lot of people try to fast and they cave, they can't do it because they have an emotional addiction to food. That's where I come in. I help people as a coach to overcome their emotional blocks, to overcome their addictions, so that they can implement the knowledge they have. I give them the ability to act on the knowledge. So if you would like to get a coaching session with me to help you lose weight, help you with other areas of your life where maybe you're struggling, you know what it is you should be doing, you know you shouldn't yell at your kids, but you find yourself doing it anyway, send me an email, chris@choiceconversations.com, and let's line up a coaching session. So that's all lowercase, chris@choiceconversations.com, and I'll get you on the schedule and I will help you to overcome those blocks. All right, thank you so much for listening today. Have a great day. Or not. The choice is yours.